It's my great pleasure to introduce my next speaker today, Bronwen Robinson from ZolkC Limited. I first met her 5 years ago at an innovation conference where she was speaking about a project to introduce GPS interaction technology at the Culloden battlefield. Very interesting hearing last night about how this is all moving on. And some of the incredible opportunities that are going to arise in terms of interpretation of information for visitors in the future. So I'm just going to pass on to Bronwen to reveal more.
Well, hello, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you. What I'm going to actually talk about is Waterford, less about the company that I work for and more about a collaborative project which is focused on the economic regeneration of the oldest town in Ireland in the southeast. So the talk that I'm going to cover, it will do a number of different things. I'm going to explain what the Waterford experience is, working together, a collaborative approach which is multi-agency, local community and businesses coming together, the rationale, why have they come together, and the process, how it's operated, and the very early impacts. This is a project that's ongoing, and it was launched in September, really, end of August, September in 2012, but we are having significant impacts already. And a little bit more about the next developments. So the background is the closure of Waterford Crystal. And for those of you that know this part of Ireland, or you know Waterford, Waterford was in fact defined by Waterford Crystal. It established about 1783, so over 240 years. It changed the process and this sort of atmosphere of Waterford from a trading port to one of an industrial town and an industrial city. Well, in 2009, it was shut. The Wedgwood Group went bankrupt. Wedgwood Group owned it. It went bankrupt. The factory was closed with a devastating effect on Waterford. 2010, the Waterford Crystal brand was bought, and the new buyers decided that they needed to keep some presence in Waterford, but it was small. What they did is to create a visitor centre and some limited production, and the rest of the production went into Europe, to Slovenia and other places like that. So the economic impact and the decline in the economy was huge. The agencies that were responsible for Waterford in terms of the economy decided that there was a need for a massive regeneration. And as you know, 2009 in Ireland was not exactly a good time for business and business creation. But there was, from 2010, still a significant demand for the Waterford Crystal Centre, the visitor centre. So what the agencies decided to do is to build from this crystal interest. And if they said if they could actually increase the amount of time that people spent in Waterford to be one where they were spending more than 3 days, 3+ days, then that would have a significant impact on the economy. And what they decided to do is to try and build towards that, but they recognized that they couldn't actually do it singularly. So a little bit more background about Waterford. The visitors, yes, there were still visitors coming into Waterford to the Crystal Centre, but they were leaving as fast as they came in. They went around the visitor centre and then went off to the Ring of Kerry on the west coast, because that's where the tourist destination spots were considered to be, not Waterford. So the ambition to increase to 3+ days in Waterford needed a significant sort of focus and vision. And what they decided is that what Waterford did have, it's the oldest city in Ireland, is they had over 1,000 years of history, of culture, of tradition that they could build from. So I'm going to sort of show you a short video now, which is an extract from Irish television, which was based on the Waterford experience. And in here you'll see Eamon McEnany, who is the director of the museums, talking to a reporter about why they did this. I mean, this is an urban regeneration project and a tourism destination project.
You're the director of the Waterford Museum of Treasures, and we spoke to you 4 years ago when all of this Viking Triangle and the museums were really a dream and an aspiration.
Indeed, they were, Mary. They were just a dream at that stage, but we've been a lot of hard work and, of course, great support from Fáilte Ireland, financial support from Fáilte Ireland, and Waterford City Council has put together this great urban renewal project and tourism development project, really.
So if somebody comes along here and says, I'm going to do the Viking Triangle, I'm going to do the museums, what exactly will they see?
Well, I suppose the way we've summed up is they're going to see 1,000 years of Irish history, literally in 1,000 places, starting at Reginald's Tower, then into the Medieval Museum, and then here to the Bishop's Palace, where you take up the history from the 17th century onwards.
1,000 paces, that's not a huge amount to ask of anybody.
No, it's not, Mary, and there are lots of different ways of taking the tour. You can either take a walking tour of the space, the Viking Triangle, or you can take a V-guide tour, it's an electronic guide, which is actually video footage and recreations of buildings and that on the guide. There'll also be, within the museums, there will be reenactor guides, like character guides. There will be the typical kind of academic tour, if you wish to.
For me, the only way to actually explore it is to do the tour myself. I'm going to do that, but I will be back to you because you did promise me a preview of the Medieval Museum, which isn't opening actually to the end of the month.
That's correct, Mary, yes, yeah, so the end of August, yes.
So I'll hold you to that promise.
Yep.
I'll be back in a little while. Don't go away. See you in a while.
See you
Bye.
later. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So this was an economic regeneration project, first and foremost, but it was building from the backdrop of interpretation of the heritage of Waterford. What it involves is 3 museums, and the museums aren't owned by the same people, so it required collaboration. There's the Viking Quarter, which is Reginald's Tower, is one of the original sort of Viking elements of a huge sort of population of Vikings that were there nearly 1,000 years ago. It's the Medieval Museum, the story of the city as it moved through the centuries, and it's through to the Georgian Museum, which is part of the Bishop's Palace. And the connection is digital technology, and the digital technology of the Viking Quarter, which connects all of these 3 museums. So people can take a device called a V-guide, and they will get the interpretation, which is automatically triggered in the museums and outside through GPS triggering through the Viking Quarter. This is phase 1. Phase 2 is the cultural quarter, because if they're going to achieve 3+ days dwell time, then the museums aren't going to cut it by themselves as well. So the phase 2, the City Council have bought 15 of the older buildings in an area of Waterford that is going to be developed into a major cultural centre, with phase 3, the promotion of the retail sector following that. They also want to stretch out the season. The season in Waterford tends to be about a 4-5 month. And so they're taking the concept of festivals, food, winter festivals, concerts, to spread the tourism across the year, still as a multi-agency model, and always for the ambition to increase the dwell time and the expenditure profile. So this is more about the experience. This is the second part of this story that was on Irish TV.
Well, as Eamon was saying, there are many ways of taking the tour, and I have opted for the technology route because I'm so good at that. I can tell you, if this works for me, it will work for anybody. Paul Savage is the creator of the device. Is it user-friendly?
It is. You can't get more user-friendly.
Good.
We spent a lot of time working with the TSSG research group and Waterford Institute of Technology to develop state-of-the-art technology that brings the tour live automatically. You don't even have to do anything to experience the full tour. You just walk and it will show you and tell you the story.
Okay, so all I have to do now is press start.
You press start.
And I'm off on my merry way.
Start your walk.
Bye.
Take care.
Well, my V-Guide has just told me that this is City Hall and the Theatre Royal, built in 1783 by honest John Roberts as assembly rooms for the merchant classes. Now, nothing on there at the moment, but it could be a place to come back to in the evening for a little bit of theatre, perhaps. My first port of call is Reginald's Tower, and it's one of 3 museums on the tour. Richie Ryan is my guide, or should I say, Mayor Wise.
Hello, Mary. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thomas Wise was Mayor of Waterford City in 1689.
Yep, this is it. This is my next stop. It's Greyfriars Art Gallery, and apparently there's an exhibition here. It's called Around the City in 10 Pictures. Really want to have a look at that. Next door is the Franciscan Monastery. This place has seen many uses over the years. It was founded in 1240 and called Greyfriars from the colour of the habits that the monks wore. In 1693, part of it was given to the French Protestant Huguenots, and it's believed that it was they who introduced the Blas to Waterford. I've no doubt they brought their fabulous French wines and cheeses with them as well, but it's the humble Blas that the Huguenots are credited with, and it remains a famous Waterford staple. And isn't it just typical? They give me a Blas, but do you see any wine? Do you see any cheese? No. Story of my life. I'm really looking forward to my next stop on the tour. I'm so excited to be getting a sneak preview of the brand new medieval museum. Busy at work inside is Eamon McEnany putting the final touches to the new museum. Where exactly are we now?
Well, now we're partly below ground in what's known as the Choristers' Hall. It's part of the medieval deanery that was built in about 1270 here in Waterford by the Bishop of Waterford, Stephen Filburn, who was also the Governor of Ireland.
And the museum has been built on top of this?
Yes, it's the first time in Ireland that a medieval building has been incorporated into modern.
My guide has brought me the short hop from the Medieval Museum to the Christ Church Cathedral, where Dean Maria Jansen is waiting to show me around.
Morning, Mary.
Dean, what a lovely building.
You're very welcome to Christ Church.
Let's have a little walk and see the beauty. One more stop to make. It's another museum, the Waterford Museum of Treasures, and it's housed in this magnificent building behind me. It's the Bishop's Palace, and this is where Waterford history is brought right up to the present day. Can you guess whose shoes are in there? So what have we here, Rosemary?
Here, Mary, you have the Huckerbuck shoes of Brendan Boyer. He danced in those in 1964, and they were very kindly donated.
Do you know, it's hard to believe that I have managed to fit in so much between history and culture in such a small area. It really is 1,000 years of history in 1,000 paces.
Okay, so the multi-agencies weren't solely the public sector bodies, but they did include Fáilte Ireland, it did include this Waterford City Council and the Office of Public Works. It also included the local business community, and it included the community at large in Waterford. The interesting structure that they did is they did set up a committee to take on, and this committee was drawn from all of the interested stakeholders, and to take on the design of the interpretation, the design of the buildings, the medieval museum build, etc. And instead of the agencies keeping the funding and the responsibility for the funding, they actually gave the committee the responsibility for the whole project in the round, which I think is a very interesting, brave step. So the next process and the phase of the cultural quarter, they've established now a trust. The committee still meets as a steering group to oversee the sort of design of the project and the delivery of the project, but they've now created a trust, and the trust is to fast track the procurement and the build for the 15 buildings that they now have. So the increase in dwell time to 3+ days, it's a long-term goal. We won't know really what has happened until this year. This will be the first year, 2013, that we will have a full year of service. But what we have seen is that the increase in tourists visiting the sites has increased by 190% over the last 4 months. And this has been achieved not only by sort of foreign visitors or visitors from other localities, but also by the residents that have taken a part of this cycle. Next phase developments, we will be launching in the next few weeks the devices in multiple languages, and there's been active targeting of visitors from other countries for the language take-up. Downloadable apps, so the V-Guide that you saw in the video there, that is available through the museums, but what happens in the evening when the museums are shut? So downloadable apps, free-to-use apps that will also promote the services that are happening, the different cultural events within the city. And children's tours. The software that we deploy also has the data gathering, the analysis, who's using it for what, how long are they spending, what are they not looking at, so that we can look at continuous improvement in the visitor experience. And this, of course, will be added to by the Cultural Quarter. So the relevance to Edinburgh, I mean, Waterford is so different from Edinburgh. You already have a huge number of tourists, and you are a tourist destination. Waterford has ambitions to be so as they move from this industrial base to being a service centre. But what they do have is that the use of digital technology is a medium, and it's a medium that connects the different sort of services across Waterford and will drive the visitor into wider experience. So in our discussions, we are in discussions with Edinburgh World Heritage Trust. This use of the heritage of Waterford is, as an economic driver, is one that is being adopted and being promoted here in Edinburgh too. So the use of digital technology as the connector, the gathering of the data, the driving of the visitor numbers to 3+ days is part of that. And in Waterford, it's regarded by the agencies as not a nice to do. Heritage interpretation is not nice to do, it's essential. I watched Yes Prime Minister, the new Yes Prime Minister on Monday, and I don't know if anybody saw it, but you've got the dinosaur sort of Humphrey talking to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister is saying, why did we put the Office of Culture, Media and Sport together? And Humphrey turns to him and says, because they're all irrelevant. What I'd like to say is that the interpretation of heritage and the culture of the city is the way that the economic success of Waterford and Edinburgh will be achieved. Thank you.